So you're back from razor clamming and you've got a mess of clams to clean. So the first step in cleaning the razor clam is to shuck the clam out of its shell. And I'm going to show you two methods to do that. The first method is usually what I use if I only have a few, and the second method is a much easier method, and it's what I use when I've got a lot of clams to clean. And since I have a family of 5, I've got 75 clams to clean. But let me show you that first method for those of you that just have a few. All right, so the first step you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut along and cut this membrane. And you'll see that membrane. That membrane is where the shell is growing. So that's new shell growth. So I'm going to take the knife and I'm going to be very careful not to cut the clam itself. I'm just going to run that knife along the shell, okay? Cutting that membrane. And so I'm going to do it on both sides, running along, okay, all the way up, okay? Now that I've done that, there's 2 abductor muscles that hold this clam closed. One is here and one is here, and they're on both sides, here and here. So what I want to do is I want to take my knife and I want to run it down the inside of the shell, being very careful not to cut the clam itself, but to cut along the shell and get that abductor. So I'm just going to run my knife blade along the inside of the shell, okay, until I feel that abductor give way, and then I'm going to do the upper abductor as well. Okay, so here I'll show you in just a second what that looks like now that I've got it cut. All right, so there is each abductor muscle. Okay, now I'm going to flip it over to the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to run along the shell, being careful not to cut the clam, but to cut the abductor muscle. And really, you're just kind of scraping it out of there. All right. Now, the last thing that you might want to do, or you have to do sometimes, is there might be some more of the membrane holding the clam in there. And so if you could see, on this side, there's a little membrane that's holding that clam in there. So I just want to take the knife and I want to run it down, all the way down to the hinge. And I do that on the top and then on the bottom. All right. And there it is. My razor clam has been shucked free. All right, so that method is with a knife. Now I'm going to show you a faster and easier way to do this. All right, so in order to do the second method, all you need is a pot of boiling water, which I've got over here on the stove, and some cold water drawn up in the bath, or some cold water drawn up in the sink, and I also like to sometimes put some ice cubes in it. So this time I did, just because I've got a lot of clams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the clams, they're in a mesh bag, and I'm just going to use this so it doesn't drip everywhere. I'm going to take it over. You can see I've got the water boiling, and I'm just going to dip this in here. And I'm going to give it a couple shakes, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? I'm going to take that out. I'm going to run it over here, and I'm just going to drop it right into the sink, into the ice. Okay. Now, I'm going to take them out, and I'm going to show you why I like this method. If you could see right here, essentially, that already took one side of the abductor off. Okay, so it's really just the membrane kind of holding this clam on there. And sometimes you have to take your knife and run it down along there and do it just like I showed you on that first method, and it pops right off. So there's one clam. So you can see right here, essentially just falls right out. So this is why I like this method. They're just falling right out of there. It might take a little bit to get the abductors. Some of them didn't get all the way. So I'll just scrape down and get that abductor, and they slide right out. All right, so you can see how easy and how quick this method is. I've got 2 more bags, so let me get those real quick, and then I'll be ready to start cleaning. All right, so now that I've got the clams shucked out of the shells, I'm gonna show you how to clean it. So let me show you what I do with the clams here. So I've got them here in the sink, and the first thing I'm gonna do is unzip the zipper. And so if you look at this part of the clam, it actually looks like a zipper here. So I'm just gonna take the shears and I'm gonna cut straight up that zipper. And there's 2 holes in this siphon. So there's an infill and an exfill. And so I'm going to cut all the way up to the tip of that one. And then you're going to open it up. I'm going to rinse, there's some sand in there. I'll rinse that off so you can see what I'm doing. Right up under right in front of the gills. These are gills here. In front of the gills is the second hole. So I'm just going to put the kitchen shears in there. And you could do this with a knife, and same thing, just run your knife straight up there. It does the exact same thing. All right, now at this point, I'm going to take, since I have the scissors in hand, I'm just going to snip the tips of these siphons off, just like that. Okay? Now I'm going to put the scissors to the side. I'm going to grab my knife, and these are the gills here. I'm going to remove the gills. And if you see, they're on equal sides, so I'm just going to grab the gill, and I'm going to pinch and pull. Okay? Pinch and pull to remove the gills. Okay? There's that. And I want to just make sure I get the gills off. Okay? Now that I've got the gills off down here, this is another part of the organs. Some people call it the liver. I'm not 100% sure if it is the liver. Okay, but I'm just going to pull that off on each side. So same thing. And if you have a sharp knife, it makes it tremendously easier. Okay, so we've got that. Now you'll see this tube here. I like to cut that tube open. Sometimes there's some black stuff in there. All right, and so I just make sure I have that cleaned off. Then I'll take my knife and scrape anything that's really kind of sticking out, that's brown. Now, as long as when you clean the razor clam, as long as you take off everything that is brown, you are going to have a clean clam. So there it is. All right, so these are called the windows of the clam. All right, so if you could see, I'll hold it up actually into the light. And if you can see this transparent thing right here, this is called the window. See the window? They're on each side. When you're cleaning the clam, you're going to try not to break those. It's called breaking the window. Now, even the most professional clam digger will accidentally break the windows. But when you're cleaning the clams, you try not to do that. All right, so at this point, you can kind of go a lot of ways. Some people will remove the digger right here. Some people will keep the entire clam intact and fry the whole thing whole, okay? Or some people will take the digger off and then they'll chop it up finely, and that'll make clam chowder. It just really matters at this point on what you're gonna do with the clam. I'm gonna show you how to fillet it as if you're gonna cook the whole thing whole, all right? So now that I've got the gills out, I'm gonna take my knife and I'm gonna hold the digger here between my two fingers, and I'm gonna insert it here, and I'm gonna run it all the way down to the end and fillet it straight open like that. Okay? Now, a lot of time, this is just a part of its digestive thing. That's perfectly normal. So you're going to move that, and sometimes you might want to, you have to cut it open a little bit to get down in there. Okay, now you see this brown stuff? This is essentially its last meal. So this is its stomach down in here, and I'm going to start scraping that brown stuff out. Okay? That's its stomach. And at this point, once I get a fair amount of that scraped off, I'm going to stick my thumb through, all right, so that now I've got the clam flipped over. This is its gut sac. So what I want to do is I want to cut the gut sac open, okay, and I want to try to take all of this brown stuff out of there. That's its guts. Okay, and I'm just going to scrape that out a little bit. Okay. All right. At this point, rinse it off a little bit. Okay. That clam is near 99% clean. All right, and you could see I've got the whole thing. I've got the windows intact. I've got the digger filleted open. Now there is a little bit of fine cleaning that I need to do, but at this point, this clam is done. It is ready to go. All it needs is a quick final rinse. So that is one way to clean the razor clam. This is filleted completely open as if I'm gonna cook it. And it just, when you keep the windows intact, it really helps if you're gonna fry the whole thing flat. Okay, now I'm gonna show you a different way to clean it that's a whole lot faster. I also have a whole nother video on the easy way to clean razor clams. So if you want to see that video, just click up there. All right, and that'll take you to that video. It's another way, basically doing the same thing. All right, so this is if you're gonna give it to someone special or fry the whole thing. I'm gonna put that over there, it's done. All right, now let me show you how fast this can be. All right, I've got a clam, take my scissors, run up the inside, all the way down to the first siphon, okay? Then I hit the second siphon, all the way up. All right, I'm gonna cut off the tip, just like I did before. Now I'm going to take this and see where these gills are. I'm going to take the scissors, cut the gills out, cut down there, okay? I'm going to take the scissors again, cutting out all that brown stuff. Okay? Now, if you're making chowder, it doesn't matter about these windows, okay? All that matters is that you're cleaning out all this brown stuff. So at this point, I like to remove the digger. All right, now look at that. I've got a nice, beautiful, clean razor clam meat. Now, a little bit of sand, but that's all right. So this clam is done. Now, I can make strips out of this, okay? I can cut it up finely for chowder. It doesn't matter. So that's going to go into the bowl. Done. That is done. Now, I got to find the digger. Here it is. All right, so I've got the digger. Now, all I'm going to do is with my scissors, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to cut this whole gut sack out. And that piece that just fell in there, that's really just its guts and a little bit of meat, but not a lot. I'm not wasting a lot. Now this I'll save and I'll freeze it, and that'll be crab bait later on the next time I go Dungeness crabbing. All right, so now I'm going to finish this foot. I'm just going to take a knife. I'm going to run it all the way down just like I did the previous way, kind of filleting it open. All right, filleting it open just like that. Rinse this out. All right, taking some of this digestive stuff out. There it is. That is a whole, complete razor clam that is done and ready to go. That's ready to eat right now. And that's how quickly razor clam cleaning can be. So you could do it this way, the way I did it before, where you've got the windows intact. I'm going to fry the whole thing. Or you can do it this way if you're going to make strips, or you're going to make it into chowder. And that's how easy razor clam cleaning is. Hey, if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and be sure to check out the other content on this channel. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Until the next time, take care.